Great farmers. Great farmers.
Good evening.
Great nation.
Good evening, great farmers.
Good evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the September edition of the VD&S Farmers Center monthly webinar series. Today's topic is titled Yield Maximization, Storage and Profitability in Onions. This webinar is organized in conjunction with our partners, Royal Blue Contractors and East West Seed International, and is sponsored by Know Your Farm Hands. I am your host, Folake Aino, the MD of VD&S Farms, VD&S Farmers Center, and VD&S Feed Mill. VD&S Farmers Center is a one-stop input shop for both subsistence and commercial farmers. VD&S Farmers Center is an agrovet center that partners with reputable companies like East West Seed International, Royal Blue Contractors, and the likes to provide high-quality seeds and other products for crop and livestock healthcare needs. The center is involved in the sales, marketing, and distribution of seeds, seedlings, fertilizers, growth media, agrochemicals, biochemicals, irrigation, drips and accessories, veterinary medication, vaccines, animal feeds, additives, drugs, biosecurity products, poultry and livestock equipment, and all other agricultural inputs with nationwide delivery options. VD&S Farmers Center also offers mentorship, training, consultancy, extension services, and veterinary ambulatory. VD&S Farmers Center is located at number 19 Ajegule Street along Ikorodu Road, Temu, Epe, Lagos. It is opposite Citizens Comprehensive College. For more information about our products and services, please visit us at www.vdsfarmsonline.com. Our partner, Royal Blue Contractors, is a leading input distribution company in Nigeria. They are involved in the sales of organic and liquid fertilizers, certified seeds, agrochemicals, and other agro inputs. Their services include the provision of mechanized farm implements, value chain support and development, training, logistics and transport services, building, construction and maintenance, and facilitating finance for smallholder farmers. They are based in Kano. Now, let us take a short message from our sponsors, Know Your Farm Hands.
When hardworking farm hands been a nightmare for you? Have you had incidents of pilfering or stealing by your workers? Have your profits been eroded by activities of insincere workers? Introducing Know Your Farm Hands. Download Know Your Farm Hands app from the Play Store on your Android device and start registering your farm hands for free. When you register on this app, you'll be able to verify your prospective farm workers. Each farm hand is added and reviewed by farmers just like you. All you have to do is create an account, enter your information, then log in. Then, by clicking at the bottom left corner, you can search your potential farm hands by name, email, and phone number until you find the farm hand you are looking for. Farmers who have worked with your potential staff will flag them and provide information on their experience. Register your own farm hands on the app. Their fingerprints can then be captured as a unique identification for each farmhand. Once they're registered, just click Flag to review them. And if you need help along the way, send an email to support@knowyourfarmhands.ng or phone either 0705 368 0191 or 0809 091 5139. Know your farmhands and be stress-free.
I think you're muted, Madam Falake, you're muted.
I'm muted and every other person isn't. Sorry about that. So before we go to the webinar proper, we have a few guidelines which I'd like to read out. Because we would like to have a seamless and an uninterrupted session, I would please implore the host to mute all participants upon entry and at every point in time. Only the person speaking should be unmuted. All questions, comments, clarifications, suggestions, etc. should be typed and sent via chat. We will collate all of this and read them out to be responded to during the question and answer session. We expect that the questions will be brief and very clear to understand. And if we have time in the course of the webinar, we can take contributions from about 2 or 3 people. And we expect that each contribution would not be longer than 2 minutes. Okay. So last year, I think towards the end of last year, in the second or third quarter of last year, we were able to demystify the myths regarding onion cultivation in the southwestern region of Nigeria. And we also discussed onion production at length. So continuing from there, our discussion today will be focused on yield maximization, storage, and profitability in onions. And to present that to us is none other than the onion expert himself, the professor, Malam Aminu Aliu Gulumbe. Malam Gulumbe is the East-West Seed commercial field promoter covering Sokoto, Kebbi, Niger, and Zamfara states. He is an onion breeder who has been in agriculture for 15 years. Please join me in welcoming Malam Gulumbe. Malam Gulumbe, please.
Good evening, all, and you are welcome to our program. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.
Okay, this is presentation of profitability of onion production in Nigeria by Aminu Ali Gulumbe. Please, next slide, please. Okay, requirements and costs of production of onions. If you are to produce onions, you will need input of about 604,000, and then operation cost maybe around 395,000, and then you may need extension services, aggregation, and insurance of about 120,000. The breakdown of this analysis will be given shortly. However, it depends on your location and cost of inputs in your own location. So because of inputs, the inputs that you need are seeds, water pump, or source of pumping water and source of water, intake hose, discharge hose, all these are sources of water. Then you need fertilizer, 2 kinds of fertilizer. you need NPK 15-15, and you need urea 26%. You may also need organic liquid fertilizer, depending on the situation. However, organic liquid fertilizer does not replace the two above fertilizers. Just two, they are necessary. That is the NPK and urea. So you may need the emergence herbicide to suppress weed, that is pendimethalin. You may need insecticide, cypermethrin and profenos. You may also need other insecticides, like the systemic insecticides. You may need imidacloprid, another insecticide like abamectin that will fight against insect pests that may attack the onion. So you need knapsack sprayer for spray or any other source of spray that you may use. Then empty sack for you to aggregate the onions. You may need 240 based on the yield we estimated for frame. So the cost of those inputs, if you look at them in totality, there are 604. You per hectare, you need 3
Gane
kg
ga ɗan gayin layin nan.
onion seed. 3 kg of onion seed.
Kiran shi kadai ne.
One water pump, 5 yard of intake pots. That is if you are going to create water channel. If your farm is well connected with drip irrigation, that will suffice. Then the discharge hose, you need 1. NPK 15-15-15, you need 3. Urea, you need 3 also, 3 bags of 50 kg. Then organic liquid fertilizer, you may need 8. Then pre-emergence herbicide, you need 2 liters. Insecticides, you may need 2 liters. 1 knapsack sprayer is sufficient for 1 hectare, then 240 bags. This will amount to 604,000. This 604,000 may vary from location to location and from season to season. Next slide, please. Okay, coming to cost of operations, you need to have 5 operations. The first one is plowing and harrowing. That is after land clearing. Plow, you harrow the land. This may cost you for a hectare about 60,000 naira. Then transplanting, cost of labor for transplanting may cost you 40,000 naira. The spacing of onion is tedious. It may be tedious if you are doing it manually. However, there are some machines that can be used to transplant onions. The spacing is 15 by 15. That is what makes it so tedious. Then weeding, you may do weeding twice since you are using herbicide to suppress the weeds. 2 weedings will be okay. Then harvesting will cost 20,000 naira. Then weighing and bagging, you need laborers that will help you to bag and weigh the onions if you are weighing, more especially if you are selling to a market that requires a specific weight. If not, then your own method of bagging should be applied. All these will cost 205,000 naira for you to run the farm. Next slide, please. Okay, after that, you may need other things which could be extension service, more especially if you are going into a kind of a program. Maybe there are people that will monitor the aggregation, and then you may need insurance. You may need other people. This may not be necessary if you are going on your own. However, even if you are going on your own, you may register with insurance companies so that your farmland will be insured and your produce will be insured should in case if there is any problem with your production, that is natural disaster, which can be justified. So in total, you have 73,710 naira for all these insurances. And then the total production will arrive at 1.1 million, 27,280 naira. So this is what you need to cultivate a hectare of onion. A case study of Sokoto. This was done in Sokoto using this. And then the yield also obtained is that yield that was obtained in Sokoto using the best agronomic practices of onion production. Please, let's move to the next slide. Okay, now we are talking about the profitability of cultivated Prema, which is the variety that was used in Sokoto, and it yielded a very fantastic yield, which we are using today to explain how profitable the onion production can be. So cost of production is 1.1 million. Prema yielded 48 tons per hectare. And at that time that the Prema was harvested, it was sold at 12,000 naira per 100 kg. Each 100 kg was sold at 12,000 naira. So if you convert 48 tons to kg and then you multiply by 12,000, you divide by 100 first, then multiply by 12,000, you end up having 5.7 million. And if you subtract the cost of production, which is 1.1 million, you end up with 4.6 million. And if you get the percentage of the ROI, you will have 410%. That means if you can cultivate onion very well, that is Prema, and have 48 tons per hectare, if the price is 12,000 naira per 100 kg, you'll be able to multiply your investment by 4 and some surplus. There are very critical issues and very important things that you need to note for you to achieve this kind of yield, which we'll be seeing very soon. Please, next slide. These are some of the farms, the farm that we analyze right now at vegetative stage. And then next slide. This is the farm during harvest. If you look at the onions, it is uniform. It is the size of the bulbs is moderate, and the harvest was bumper. So these are just people bagging the onions after curing. Next slide, please. This is still during harvest of the onion at Taluka. Next. So I want to give us some tips if you want to achieve that kind of yield, which will result to high ROI. Please first get a good seed, which is we are trying to show you how Prema can be productive. Then during your land preparation, make sure your farm is well fertiled. You can add manure, and then you should till the land very well. Then good nursery management. A lot of farmers do not take care of their nurseries, and they will lose their seedlings from that stage. That is reducing the productivity of the area you will transplant. It is reducing the number of seedlings you have during transplanting. Then use standard practices of onion production. That means you should water at the appropriate time, apply fertilizer at the appropriate time, ensure it is weed-free, take care of insect pests, take care of diseases, spray your fungicides as required. Spray of fungicides may vary from north to south, since south has high relative humidity, so more fungal attacks may be envisaged. So you must be ready to spray fungicide regularly. Then timely operation. Make sure whatever you are doing it at the right time. With this, I believe you'll be able to have the tremendous success that we recorded here in Sokoto, or something close to that. And you'll be happy that you planted Prima, and you also tell others to come and plant Prima. So next slide, please. I believe this is the last slide. I really appreciate you for listening, and I await your questions and your inputs so that we can join our hands together to make Nigeria great, so that we'll be able to cultivate onion and supply onions to other countries that requires it. I believe the quantity of onion needed in Nigeria, we don't really have it because of so many reasons. And one of the reasons is lack of good varieties that can withstand environmental and biotic factors. But when I say biotic factors, I'm talking about insect pests and diseases. So I recommend Prima to you because it has a high level of disease resistance, and it tolerates some insects to some extent. Even though Prima has this level of disease resistance, you shouldn't just rely on that. We recommend that you try your best to spray regularly to ensure successful production. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you all.
Thank you so much, Malam Bulumbe. So he has just shared his experience of what they did in the North. So before, please keep your questions coming. I'm receiving some questions now. Please keep them coming. But before we go into that question and answer session, we want to call on Mrs. Adiza Yaro to intimate us with the onion varieties available at East West Seed, and also to talk about onion storage. Mrs. Yaro is an agronomist and marketer involved in market development and rural development, agribusiness, and project management. She is the country manager for East West Seed, Nigeria. Mrs. Adiza Yaro, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be waiting the presentation. Okay, thank you so much. In East West Seed, we have various onion varieties for different purposes, just like we have in other crops. Onion is an interesting crop in Nigeria and of course, all parts of the world because of its importance. Apart from tomato, I think onion is one of those crops that is highly appreciable, and there is a huge price fluctuation for onion. Are you sure this is the first slide? I think this should be the second slide. Excellent. So this is the first slide. So in East West Seed, we have both open pollinated varieties as well as hybrid onion. But of course, hybrid onion is slowly gaining traction in the market. What we see mostly in the market are open pollinated varieties. So in East West Seed, we have 3 commercial varieties in Nigeria. That is the Dayo, the Super Yali, and Prema that Aminu had just spoken about. So speaking about the short day onion, we have Dayo and Super Yali. These are open pollinated varieties and have its unique characteristics. If we're talking in terms of shelf life, if you want an onion you can store for a very long time, is Dayo variety. You can see from the picture it's a little bit light in color, Uniformity is also very good. It has a very strong vigor, and the days to maturity is about 110 to 120 days after transplanting. And of course, for onion, we know it stays about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks in the nursery before transplanting. For Dayo variety, it has the characteristic of having a very thin neck, which the thin neck helps it to like close. And then most people, when you see people in the market going for onion, they really like the very big sized onion to use. But in terms of storage, you don't go for the big sizes because the big sizes is full of water, and the water helps in deterioration. So if you go for big sized onion, it means at the end of the day, those onions will not be too good for storage. Talking about super yali, if you go into the markets around Kano axis and Kebbi axis, you see some of this dark onion I'm talking about. Super yali also have a very good shelf life, meaning you can't use it for storage. But if you look at the color from my presentation, is deep red. And some people have the notion that the darker the color, the better, but it's not always the case. That it is the better. And of course, the big sizes. If you want to go for onion for storage, you shouldn't rely on the big ones because the big ones can easily get bad. Of course, if you want to store onion as well, you have to look for onions that are properly cured. What do I mean by cured? It means at harvest, the farmer or the middleman would have ensured that there's the proper closure of the neck. Another thing you wouldn't want to go for is onion that has a lot of bolting. We call it bolting. Typically, you see as if there is a stick in the middle. For that stick, it's not a good characteristic. And usually, when we see bolting in the field, it's a clear indication that that particular variety does not fit the season. So it's trying to like bolt. And what does bolting do to storage? If you have onions that have bolted a lot, the onion, when you cure, it's quite difficult for it to have a closure at the neck. And that now becomes an opening to the onion. Most of the times, if you go to the market, you buy onion, especially the ones with the bolting. After a short while, just slice in between, you begin to see like black molds forming, meaning infection has already entered. So you don't want to have some of those kind of onion if you go for storage. So next slide, please. Thank you. So the next variety we also have are the raining season onion. That is where the money is. If you are unable to store onion in the main season, that is in the dry season, starting from March, April, May, if you don't store, then you have the option of going into wet season onion production. And it's quite challenging because not all varieties will survive, like Aminu has spoken about. So we have positioned Prema for the wet season, and it does very well as the short day onion in the dry season. So for Prema, it's an open pollinated variety that is an all-seasoned variety in East-West seed. Aside the two hybrid varieties, we have the Red Star F1 and the Red Jewel F1, which are all positioned in the wet season. So for Prema matures at about 110 to 120 days after transplanting. But the unique feature of these hybrid varieties is that they are early maturing. And remember, technically, when you grow onion in the wet season, it's not for storage. It's ready for market. It means as you pick from the field, it's going straight into the market and straight for consumption because, like I mentioned earlier, storage characteristics, you have to look into varieties that have less water in it. So at that period, the onion imbibes a lot of water. And when you harvest, the next thing you do is you want to get it into the market as quick as possible. And at that period, the prices are really, really good that you wouldn't even want to store, because if you miss that season, disposing the onion, you end up with rotten onions, or you end up not selling the onion. So for the wet season, we position these varieties. Like I said, Red Star is a hybrid, highly uniform. And of course, it's similar to that of, the color is similar to that of Prema, like you can see in the picture, and it matures about 95 to 105 days after transplanting. We have Red Jewel as well. Red Jewel matures between 105 days to 110 days after transplanting. Talking about market prices and fluctuation in prices, we all can remember the story in 2020, that is just barely 2 years ago, where the prices of onion was as good as what people call the new gold. Because at that period, onion became so scarce, not just in Nigeria, but in all parts of the world. So much more that I knew at that period, even the Indian government was looking at ways of importing onion into India because of scarcity. And at that period, I think there was almost about 325% increase. Okay, sorry, there was a background noise. At that period, there was about 325% increase in prices. And that is as a result of a period where a bag of onion, the big bag of onion of about 100 to 120 kilos was sold for between 12 and 20,000. That is at the peak of production. But as the month goes by, getting down to sometimes in July to November, a bag was selling for almost 85,000 Naira. So you can imagine, if I'm a businessman and I understand the mathematics very well, all I need to do is to invest a little bit in storage. And once you're able to invest in storage, you should be able to keep your onion and get a very good price for it. But then again, if you look at the various types of storage you might put in place, it ranges from the very local, typical ones of having thatch, straws, mud, stones, and then you have a local construction. Some of you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And then, of course, the very maybe medium one where you get a well-ventilated room or house with air conditions or good ventilation, and of course you raise it up a pallet just to ensure that there is good circulation. There is also a local structure where it's made of meshed body where you have good ventilation crossing, to the very sophisticated one I saw in Abuja, where you have a cooling system fully automated, and you have your onions stored in mesh bags, and it keeps for a very long period. So it all depends on what you want. But then the bottom line is what you put into a container determines how long it can stay, because even if you have all these structures in place, where you have the air conditioned, where you have a good mesh, you have good ventilation, and you do the sorting, as long as you put in onion that does not have in it good shelf life, you have the chances of losing your investment. So it starts from the seed to the type of onion, the type of course, cultivation, because if you end up with bolted plants, you end up with onion that it's not ready to go in the market, not to talk of storage. And if you really want to go into the investment, I think you need to look into varieties so that you won't end up on a wild goose chase in the market, picking up onions that you don't even know the endowed characteristics. You don't know how long it can stay, because if it has already a good shelf life, putting up a structure for storage will only enhance the shelf life of these onion varieties to stay. But if you don't do that, it means you'll be battling between the type of varieties you're storing and the type of structure you're using for the storage. So I'm sure if we have business people amidst us, already they understand all the calculations we've been talking right from the presentation of Aminu, to my explanation. And of course, there is a huge opportunity for onion where we have companies interested in, of course, the flakes, that's the onion flakes, drying the onion, using it in days where the onion is not available in the market, the prices are quite high. So I beg to pack at this point to allow us have time for questions and interaction. Thank you for listening. You're muted? Okay, that's fine.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Yarrow and Professor. Let's just go straight into the question and answer session because of time. Now, please keep your questions coming. I've gotten a few questions. Please keep them coming. Questions on the on Malam's presentation and question on Mrs. Yarrow's presentation as well. Please send your questions via chat so that we can just collate everything and read them out. Okay, so the first question I have here was sent to me directly. It says, can this ROI be achieved in the Southwest? That's the over 400% return on investments. Can we achieve it in the Southwest? I would direct the question to Mrs. Yarrow.
Okay, thank you, Madam Folake. For me, I will start to say a no, because agronomically, we have key producing areas and other areas who are trying to follow suit. You might get good return on investment for sure, but we decided today to use a case study of Sokoto, which you will believe with me, geographies vary from one place to another, and you might not be able to get that. I think sometimes ago, we also showcased another Madam Folake who did cucumbers in the South, and we can see a return on investment of about 410%, which if you dare to try maybe in the North, you might not achieve that. So what I would tell the person asking the question is, for sure you will get good return on investment, but then that was why we're very specific that this is in Sokoto. The kind of diseases you see in the South are quite different with the ones you see in the North. So you have a lot of factors, climatic factors to be precise, which you're battling with. So it's not all site fit all, but then I can assure you that we have done onion trials in the South in the raining season, and it did very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hadiza. There's a question from Yusuf Magaji. Says, good presentation, Aminu. From the cost of input slides, I can see 2 liters of cypermethrin was used. Apart from that, did you use any other pesticide? That's the first question. So any other pesticide apart from cypermethrin? Then the second question is, what are the major pests encountered during the production? Let's direct the question to Aminu.
Okay, that was the only insecticide that was used during that production. Actually, it is during the main season. That is the cold, dry season, which has less insect pests. So we encountered thrips during the course of production, and then a few caterpillars, but then the number is not that much, so we're able to control them using the cypermethrin and profenophos in combination. So it is not just cypermethrin, there is a profenophos in it. And also, we also encountered grasshopper. You know, when towards the beginning of cold season, you see a lot of grasshoppers in the north. So it also took care of the grasshoppers that feed on the foliage of the onions. So, however, during my course of presentation, I explained you may need other insecticides, more especially the systemic insecticides. I mentioned at least two during the course of my presentation. I mentioned you may need imidacloprid, you may need abamectin. There are a lot of them that can control different kinds of insects. So whatever insect you noticed in your field, you should identify it first and use the appropriate insecticide for it using the appropriate quantity and method of spray. Thank you so much. I hope I've answered this question.
Thank you, Malam. Ahmad Waziri Umar is asking, how can a farmer mitigate against price fluctuations?
A hand is
Ahmad,
up so that
okay.
we don't miss that. I think Damilola's hand is up.
Oh, okay. So let's take Damilola. Maybe he has a contribution before we go to Ahmad Waziri Umar's question. Damilola, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
All right, so fantastic. Thank you, Aminu, and good to contribute in this question, right? I am contributing them to complement the side of the coin which is taken from the north. So from in the south too, we cultivate onion, but not as much in the north. And in the south, Aminu mentioned that you will still encounter some maybe because of the high relative humidity in the south, you likely encounter fungi and you need fungicide around the area. Onion, as the case may be, is not as tedious in spraying than like tomatoes, cucumber, and every other vegetable that we produce, right? But for onions, you can see fertilization is even like twice or 3 times max. At least we stop fertilization around 50 days with onions, all right, around or before 50 days in onions, right? But the major insect, like I said, I will just try to contribute. I mean, I've said that thrips, caterpillar, leaf miner, they are the major insects that you can see in production of onions, right? And you can guide against it whenever you are seeing such insect on your farm. But what about fungi? Major one is anthracnose, the rods. Madam has talked about the bolting, the bacterial support. Those are the major. At least there are fewer than is that there are more, but the one that we see in Nigeria, there are fewer comprises the one that we see in other vegetables, right? And they are active ingredient like that you can use even available. There's no disease in onion that we don't have the active in Nigeria. Lactoglutathione is available, mancozeb is available, oxystrobin is available, zymoxalin, metalaxyl, like that they are available. So they can really guide against around that, right? But for us in the south, we should like I encourage my farmers that grow onions, we shouldn't look around the northern part where the go-to storage. The best we can do or have advantage in the south is maybe we buy at where it is cheap, then we store, right? It's likely not really visible for us in the south to grow and to store. So that's why we have fantastic variety like Prema that we can grow majorly in the rainy season, even off around the year. But I think our open season is rainy season. Wet season rather, I shouldn't say rainy season. Wet season, maybe we are harvesting during the rain or something like that. And we know the fluctuation of the price. Price is really high around from June to November, like Madam has said. So if you want to mitigate, like the other question that you are trying to read the other time, all right, farmers should not run away from when there is glut, right? That's not my preaching in onion, because there are variety that you can store, right? Store when the price is too cheap, then you can now sell when it's expensive, right? I think that's the contribution I want to have as my regards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dami. Thank you for the contribution. So let's go into Ahmad Waziri Umar's question. I think he has 2 questions in the chat. The first one is, how can a farmer mitigate against price fluctuations? I think Dami attempted to respond to that. Maybe Madam Adiza can also support him. Then the second question he has is that, how do you cure onions for storage? So 2 questions, mitigation against price fluctuation and onion curing for storage. Madam Adiza, please.
Okay, thank you for having me back. Addressing the question on price fluctuation, I can tell you it's quite a difficult task to do. To start with, when you talk about market forces, they are not within the sphere of control of the farmers. Number one, there are a lot of things that can actually attribute to price fluctuation. One of it is if it's a very poor year, let's take onion, for example. If it's a bad year for onion, you will believe with me that the prices will certainly go high. There was a period in Sokoto where we lost a very big storage of onion. I think it got burnt. Suddenly the prices started skyrocketing. It could be as a result of bad weather that year, which nobody had planned for. That can result to a lot of price fluctuation. So there are a lot of things that will come before you have those price fluctuations, but you cannot really control it. Sometimes the middlemen, they don't like using the name, also contribute in terms of price fluctuation. Okay, paint a scenario this way where all the onion farmers grow the onion and decide not to sell it in the main season and everybody is storing. That alone, that act alone can make the prices of onion to go high because we're talking in terms of demand and supply. Once the demand is up and the supply is low, automatically the prices go up. And then when the demand is down and the supply is kind of high, you discover that people will continue to give away their produce at a giveaway price because if you don't sell, somebody else is ready to sell because keeping the stuff or the produce is a burden to him or it comes at an extra cost. So for this question, to wrap it up, farmers cannot be able to control price fluctuation in the market. It could be anything, right?
Okay. Thank you. So how do we cure onions for storage?
Okay, let me invite Aminu back. Aminu,
Okay.
can you take that or I take it? If it's still
I can take it.
okay, great.
Right from the beginning, when you are cultivating onion for storage, there will be a time that you terminate watering so that you allow the onion to fall over completely. Make sure that there is 50% neck fall. That is the maturity, at least. It can even be more. Then for the curing, after you bring out the bulbs on the surface of the ground, you need to leave it there for some days, let's say 3 to 5 days. As you leave it there, the necks will be closing. Then after those days, then you can come and then cut your onions. After cutting your onions, you still take it to the shed. It will still continue to close and close and close. If it closes and the neck where you cut dries off, then your onion is completely cured. And in that situation, pathogens will not be able to have access to your onion bulbs. You know, it is the pathogens that causes spoilage of these onions. So that curing helps to eliminate or to deny pathogens access to your onions so that they will not be able to cause spoilage. However, some farmers might harvest immediately. After harvesting, they will leave it on the field for 5 days. Then they feel it is completely cured and then they stop. But the best is you should look at your onions very well. You should make sure that the necks has closed because onion is vegetative. After you cut it, you see the neck where you cut will be shrinking and it will be completely closed within those days. So I hope I have answered your question of curing.
Thank you. Thank you, Malam. Many accolades for you and Madam Adiza here. Great and wonderful presentation, job well done, etc. So well done. And many people are saying thank you. And I'd like to say here that If you'd like to get a copy of this recording, please send us your name, your and your WhatsApp telephone number and your email address so that we can send you a copy of this recording. Now, there's a question from Bosan James Zacchaeus. He says, during the presentation on fertilizer inputs, I saw NPK and urea. What about MOP? Do we use MOP at all in onion cultivation? Malam Aminu, please.
Yes, you may use NOP, more especially in areas that are having issues of potassium. You can use it at around 50 days, and that will be the last fertilizer that will be used for your onions. But most soils in the north are very rich in potassium. The cultivation that we had, we did not use MOP, but you can use MOP for your onions, and it will help. It helps a lot, more especially in soils where potassium is deficient. If I may explain very well, some farmers may not know MOP, more especially in the north. MOP is borate of potash, and it is a source of potassium to the plants. And also, if you look at it very well, the NPK contains potassium. It is NP and K. Potassium is there. So you might be able to scale through without using MOP, but if you have it and then you add, it will be fine and good. The soil will still reserve it, and then it will be used for the kind of fertilizer that is not mobile like nitrogen. So it is good if you add it. This is the conclusion.
Thank you once again, Malam Aminu. There's a question from Dr. Akintola. He wants to know when is the appropriate time to apply fertilizer and which of the elements among the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium is required most. Malam Aminu, are you there? Madam Adiza or Damilola, are you able to take the question? He's muted.
I mean, are you
All
muted? Okay, go on, Dami. I don't know if he's talking and he's muted. Okay, Dami, please jump in.
All right, thank you very much. First, let me, I mean, I've done justice to the question asked earlier on, right? Let me just jump that because it still is closer to the question asked next about the timing, right? Aminu mentioned in his operation that timely operation is very, very, very important. And on your fertilization, you can do 2 times or 3 times. But for us in the south, I will recommend that we do it the 3rd time. And the rate of potash is very, very essential around that time. Around maybe around 7 days, 28 days, maybe a week after transplanting. Just make sure that it has passed transplantation. If your seedlings after you transplanted it does not have not surpassed transplanting shock around that time, please don't fertilize, because your first fertilization is maybe NPK 15 if you are not too sure that your soil is fertile, right? And fertilization of onions is not like every other crop, because of the population you have. It is really recommendable. We don't really recommend broadcasting, but that's the best you could do for onion, right? And after broadcasting, you can really water very well, because it's not too easy for you to start doing side placement or bucket application for every plant that you have. It is very, very gross, because you are talking about you having a population of around over 300 to 600,000, depending on your spacing. If you are using 15 by 15, you have over 300,000 plants. We are doing 10 by 10, because that's what they are doing in maybe outside, maybe India or Philippines, like that. You have almost 600,000 population, Philippines, right? But in Nigeria, we recommend 15 by 15, which you have over 300,000 plants that you have. So it's very, very rigorous. The best you could do is to do what? To broadcast your fertilizer. So immediately after the suffix, they overcome shock, you can use your NPK 15, 15, 15. Is the fertilization is not as other crop. It is lesser and much really easier, right? Then am I in the next fertilization is around, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So the next fertilization is around maybe 4 weeks after transplanting. It can, in the south, it can take up to 6 weeks or 5 weeks. It's really depending on when they are really vegetating and they needed the vegetation. That's urea. That's 46% that you really needed around that time. And then the last one, if that's when you are seeing that, that's Amino said, in the north we have abundance of morit, right? In the north, there you see their tomatoes very red and like that, they have in abundance in the north, right? But in the south, I would still recommend, even though it's likely available in that soil, but it might likely not available for plant use around that time in abundance. So we still advise that you use morit of potash. Maybe around that's the last day, maybe 45 to 50 days max. Stop fertilization of onion at 50 days. Don't fertilize onion. In fact, around that time you need to really reduce watering so it will not be deteriorating around that time. So you can see that onion is not challenging or growing every other crop. It's still somewhat easier than every other crop, but yet the population is challenging. You need to really take care of your crops. And more often in the south, we have challenge with trips. What really finish our onions in the south is trips. And anywhere they are growing pepper in the world is in the south, and we have really challenge with it. So we can take care of trips, we can take care of caterpillar. I think we can overcome the challenge of onion with the right variety that we are talking about. That's Prema. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dami. Thank you, Madam Hadiza, and thank you, Malam Aminu. I think we have some business people in the Southwest on this forum because they're asking a lot of questions. The first one, there's 3 in 1. The first one is, what is the timing? What timing is good so that we don't meet with gluts in order to achieve the ROI Malam Aminu gave, or something close to that, since we know we may not be able to achieve that based on Madam Adiza's response. So what is the correct timing, at least for people in the Southwest, to be able to make good profits and avoid gluts in onion production? That's the first one. The second is similar. It says, what is the best variety to plant in the South outside rainy season, and also the one that is good for storage? And the last one, I think from the same person, it says, how many times does one need to spray fungicides on a weekly basis in the South? So we have 3 questions in one. The best timing to avoid glut and to be profitable, the number of times to spray fungicides, and the best variety to plant in the South outside rainy season, and also that's good for storage.
Dami, can you jump in?
All right, thank you very much, ma, for the question. So for the best time, like the question really said, I would say that in the South, we have the amount of rainfall that we have is more than the duration of wet season is really more, and it really can be determined, right? Even at now in the South, we are having constant rain from our coastal, from the mangrove, from Lagos to Oyo. We are having like constant rain, like almost every day, right? So the timing, like we tell you in a month, it is very, very difficult to really estimate, right? Because the climate, the weather really, it has really changed, and we can't really be determined. In fact, a lot of weather forecasts, we just see that it is not really so like it will be forecasted. But yet, we have a good variety for you that you can really bank on, even come what may, come what rain, come what sun. you can really go for. All right, so the question now is the yield. The yield is really what I think farmers should really go for, right? Maximization. When you have something that can give you the potential of the variety is very high. I think the question is, how can we get the potential? If we look around, the price Amino gave is around 820 naira per kg, and there's no time onion gets lower price than maybe even 80 naira. We are saying that. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. We are saying that. Sorry, am I right? I'm coming. 100 kg bag. I think that's 20 naira. I'm coming. I want to punch calculator. What 12,000 divided by 100? Right, yeah, I'm right. That's around 120 naira per kg. And let's even say what's come to us is 80 naira. If it's 80 naira and you can maximize your yield, we are saying that you are still going to make it tremendous return on investment around that area. So for farmer in the South, I would really suggest that our focus should not be we are planting for storage. It's better that if you want to do storage, please buy from the North, come and store in the South. There's no problem. Put your room, put your everything that you have. It's fantastic because onion have a longer duration. It has about almost 5 to 8 weeks in the nursery. That's around 35 to maybe 40 to 45 days in the nursery. And after transplanting, it's still going to use around the next 120 days or 110 days, as the case may be. If you calculate that time, it's going to like 6 months. Something that is going to have 6 months on the farm is very sure that rain is going to meet it. And once rain meets it, it is very difficult for you to really store once you have such amount of rain, right? Very difficult because it is moist already. Curing process will be very difficult. So for a businessman in the South, please just plant for your market to go and sell. I would really not want to advise that. But I know of a lot of good equipment that you can use for storage that will help you. Though it will not come cheap. I'm very sure on that. Right. Then the next question is advanced variety. Short day is really advisable for people in the North. Dio or Spirally, that as the case may be, the North. But for the South, just stick with Prema. Then the last question, I can't remember.
There's 3 in 1. The last question is how many times a week do you spray fungicide? All
right. So fungicide, as the case may be, is not as tomato or cucumber or any other harry that you need to keep spraying like how many times in a week. But for us, just watch out for the disease that you are noticing. If it has 0.1%, you can treat for all. But if there's no disease, then why are you spraying, right? You should just first know the disease before you know what you need to attack it with, right? You likely not even spray more than four times, 3 times, or 5 times throughout the entire cycle. The challenge you be talking around how many times your guys is spraying 1 hectare, because if you are not growing up to an hectare of onion or 0.75 of onion because of the population, you likely challenge not to meet good return on investment because the population is the genius. Because it's just one bulb that you have. Excuse me now. It's just the bulb you are investing around that time, and that could just be the end. So the population is the jinx that you should really target in production or maximizing your yield or your investment in onion production. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dami. Malam Aminu, you have your hands up. You have the floor.
Okay. One thing I would like to add is that if you have price of onion per kg in the North, more especially in Sokoto, at 120 naira, then definitely you are sure in the South you won't have that kind of price. Probably it is going to be 150 or even more. So there is this advantage in the weather in the South, and then there's another advantage that investors can also look at, what is the price of onions in the south? The price of onions in the south is always higher. There is always cost of transporting the onion from the north to the south. So as you plant your onion there, you're automatically gaining the cost of transportation. So this is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Adiza, you have the floor.
Yes, please. I just want to talk about a few key things concerning onion and variation from the north to the south. Like Dami has rightly mentioned, you have to look at comparative advantages. Like we've noted in the south, we have a lot of rainfall, and of course, cultivating the onion in the south and having to store it means you're storing a lot of water. So you see the advantage of one, buying onion from the north and storing in the south. That can work perfectly. That's in the main season when the prices are cheap. Then the second thing is if you are in the south, my suggestion is for you to leverage on the wet season onion, because like I've mentioned earlier, it's ready to market. You don't even store. And at that period, when you will be introducing your onion in the market, onion is already scarce in the south and the prices are quite appreciable. So that's one trick you can leverage on. Then speaking about fungicide, like Dami has rightly mentioned, not just fungicide, any agrochemical you're spraying, you don't just spray for fun, or you spray for the fact of, oh, you need to spray, or a routine thing, because human beings consume some of these things. So you need to watch out when to spray. Like there should be a permissible limit to where you will say, oh, it's causing an economic damage before you do the spraying. And of course, you can do preventive, but preventive is once in a while. And then again, you need to learn how to read maybe labels of agrochemicals for you to know what to do. Not because you have money at your disposal, you begin to like spray. Fungicides, precisely, you don't spray anyhow. Usually it's said you spray after a very heavy rain, or if you feel you're supposed to spray and you see the rain coming. For fungicide, you don't need to spray, you have to wait a bit. So all these things you need to put into consideration than just, okay, how many times should I spray? Nobody can tell you how many times you should spray. You need to observe the situation to know what to do when, as a result of what insect pest or disease you see in your field. So there's no hold and fast rule. Even sometimes when farmers ask, oh, how many times should I apply fertilizer? Technically, it's ridiculous because there's no hold and fast rule as to 4, 5, 6, 10 times. Your soil should tell you what you should apply. But we might have a blanket application of saying, okay, for the very non-professional farmers, can you try this, this, and this? Because the recommendation, to be fact, what we put in Sokoto is quite different from what you put in Niger State or in Lagos State. So we advise as much as possible farmers do a background check to check, okay, what soil are you dealing with? Is it a clay soil? Is it a loamy soil? Is it a sandy soil? You see, so all those factors contribute. What we do is to just do a simple pamphlet, but I can tell you, if you want to go professional and you want to go into business, you can't rely on some of those pamphlets to execute your activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Asiya Ibrahim would like to know if there's any cooperative society of onion farmers in Sokoto in case one is not able to cultivate 1 hectare. I think based on Aminu's presentation, Aminu's presentation was on 1 hectare. So she would like to know if there's a cooperative society or a group of farmers that can work together to cultivate 1 hectare.
Yes, she can be connected to some farmers that have learned the good practices, and then she can cultivate together with them. I don't know if is she in Sokoto? If she's
maybe.
If she is in Sokoto, then you can share my contact with her so that she will call, then I'll connect her with those farmers, and she can do less than 1 hectare if she so wishes.
Okay.
So this is
So,
mental.
okay, so we have her details on the chat. We can send that to you later. And we'll also share your details with her. Thank you very much for that. There's a question here from Benatebe. It says, can you use greenhouse method for planting of onions? So are there greenhouse varieties, or can we plant the open field in the greenhouse?
Okay, let me quickly pick that, Madam Folake. To start with, I want us to answer the question, why greenhouse, right? It's just a controlled environment. That's one. And two, again, only high value crops are planted in greenhouses. And if you ask me what are those high value crops, they're not more than 3: tomato, pepper, cucumbers. And don't forget what Damilola had mentioned earlier. The population, in a hectare, you need about 300,000 to 600,000 population. And then look at the period of production, almost about 6 months. Of what value is it added, right? And then don't forget what East-West Seed always preaches. Our emphasis or our focus is on smallholder farmers. We want to offer them good variety that they can do outdoors without huge investment. So for onion is a no. And then sometimes again, you discover there are crops where you need cross-pollination. You don't put such varieties or such crops in a greenhouse because you need pollination by insect, by winds. So much more you have to come up with probably parthenocarpic like cucumbers, or you have to get varieties that you have both the male and female on the same flower so that pollination can be done instantly. So for onion is a no in greenhouse. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Hadiza. I don't think we have any more questions or any hands raised. So I think that's all the questions we have. And oh no, there's one from Tunde Oladosu. How can we get contact of farmers in Sokoto to buy from, transport, and store in the South?
I think I like that question. I want to start by saying, take a trip to Sokoto. The market is open. And of course, Amino, our staff, is there, but take a trip to Sokoto.
Okay,
yes, whenever you need people, you can call me.
Yeah.
I will connect you to our farmers here in Sokoto.
Yeah, but then again, I need to put a comment around that. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to go into storage, don't go into the open market to mop up onion. One, you don't know the varieties, you don't know the characteristics, you don't know the shelf life, right? That is one. And two, again, what we do with our farmers, when I say our farmers, because we've started working on an onion project with Farm Bridge and Tiger Foods. Last year, we had operations with farmers, which was quite successful. You wouldn't come at the end of the season and you consult us, where do you get your onion? Because we deal specifically with groups of people, which at the beginning, there is an MOU signed to say, okay, I need 100 metric tons of onion. And it's an outgrower scheme where you don't just come and mop and go. You have to also invest in the farmers, give maybe minimal input, agreement on what to do, who is to do what. So sometimes when you look at business, if you just want to go into the open market to mop up, you run into trouble. You don't even know the varieties. So if you really want to work with us, there has to be a commitment, and you have to invest in the farmers, and don't just allow them grow your onion and I come back to mop, right? Just a tip of what we're doing in Sokoto with onion farmers.
Yeah, really trying to make business people in the Southwest. There are lots of questions. Please share contact for outgrower to invest in. So if you have outgrowers, maybe the contact for this program you just mentioned, people would like to know and probably invest. So for those who are okay,
sorry,
go ahead, please.
East-West Seed. That's all.
I didn't get that.
They should contact East-West Seed.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. So for those who would like a copy of this recording, please send your name, email address, and your WhatsApp telephone number via chat, and we will send it to you. And many people said thank you to everyone that has contributed today. So thank you, Madam Adiza, thank you, Malama Nemo, and thank you, Damilola. So on behalf of VD&S Farmer Center, we want to say a very big thank you to Royal Blue Contractors and East West Seed International, and our speakers for today, Malama Menu Aliyu Gulumbe, Mrs. Hadiza Yaro, and Mr. Damilola Adetola, for once again enriching us with their in-depth knowledge and exposing us to the huge potentials available in onion production and marketing. We appreciate our sponsor, Know Your Farm Hands, and we say a very big thank you to you great farmers and prospective farmers who have set out time to attend today's webinar. At VD&S Farmer Center, our aim is to positively impact farmers' lives and businesses, and we trust that we have been able to add value to you. For further questions and other clarification, please contact us at info@vdsfarmsonline.com. Thank you and God bless you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And hardworking. Shey you dey face yawa of steal from the people dem wey dey work for you. Shey the profit wey you dey make now no reach wetin you suppose dey make because people wey dey work for you no dey honest. Dem no just send you. We don carry Know Your Farm Hands come. Make you download Know Your Farm Hands app from Play Store on top your Android device. Come start to dey register your farm hands for free. If you don register on this app, you go fit verify the worker wey you get mind to hire to work on top your farm. Because farmers wey be like you don add each farm hand on top there and dem don talk wetin dem know about dem for DSF. The only thing wey you need to do na to put your information for there, open account, then just log inside the app. After that, if you click for the corner wey dey the bottom left, you go fit search for the farm hand wey you wan hire with their names, email and phone number until you see the farm hand wey you dey find. Farmers wey don work with the worker wey you get for mind to hire go flag them and then give you information as per the experience wey dem get with them. Make you sef register your own farm hands on top the app and you fit come carry their fingerprints put for there. Yes, this one go be like unique identification for each farm hand. Immediately dem don dey registered, just click on top flag to talk wetin you know about them. If you need help as you dey do all of this, just send email to support@knowyourfarmhands.ng abi make you phone 0705 3680 191 or 0809 091 5139. Sabi your farm hands make you for free from stress. Free from stress.